Yo, what's up? It's your boy Domuto. We back with another video today. Watching What If Goku Was Evil Part 13 and 14 today. This be one more video after this, and we'll finish the story actually. So, shout out to Shan for this video. We better get into it. What If Goku Was Evil Part 13, Path to Godhood, and last one they just met Beerus. So, so we'll see what how Kakarot and Raditz get to it. You know what I'm saying? And then we see some Turles and some Broly, whatever. So let's go.
Raditz and Kakarot have no idea how to react. They're terrified of Beerus. But at the same time, if there's some new Super Saiyan form out there that they don't know of, they want to learn it. They don't want Turles and Broly getting that. They need to do whatever they can find in their power to actually obtain this. So they ask Beerus, what does he know about this form? Well, that's why he came here. He knew nothing about it. He wants to see what they know. All he knows is that he has some sort of rival that's supposed to awaken soon, and that rival is going to be a Super Saiyan God. Well, they don't know anything about a Super Saiyan God, but they have their own forms. Maybe one of them is that form. And knowing that they probably shouldn't mess with Beerus, they're not going to play around here. Right from the get-go, they want to show off their full power. Kakarot goes into Supreme Saiyan, while Raditz transforms into Infernal Saiyan. He's actually the stronger of the two, gaining a little bit more control over this form than he had before. Although it still is kind of tough to maintain. Consider how far he jumped into this form, and how much power it holds. While Turles, he kind of eased himself into it. And Beerus is actually surprised. He wasn't aware these two could transform that much. No wonder Kakarot was able to defeat Frieza. And according to Whis, apparently cooler too. Kakarot says he's fought more than just them. They weren't even the strongest battles he's faced. And Beerus is somewhat impressed, but he's not going to be fully impressed until he actually gets to fight them. First he'll fight the one with shiny orange hair, then the one with fiery hair. Kakarot agrees, telling Beerus to witness the power of a Supreme Saiyan. A battle between the two ensues, but it's not really fair to call it a battle. Beerus is dodging every single attack, no matter how quickly Kakarot tries to fight. And while Raditz waits for his turn, some of the humans show up too, sensing them powering up. Immediately they're mortified, mainly Krillin and Yamcha. They see Kakarot fighting some purple alien, and then another guy standing nearby too. And it seems like Kakarot definitely isn't winning, and they can't even sense that guy's power. Raditz tells them they have this under control, briefly explaining who they are. A god of destruction? That just makes things worse. That makes it even more terrifying. Kakarot is then launched back down to the surface, crashing in the dirt nearby as Raditz then powers up. Kakarot stands back up saying he's not done, but Raditz tells him to not piss off Beerus. They don't know what he's capable of. He just wants to do exactly what Beerus says. So with Infernal Saiyan, he launches in. And even though he's stronger, it's still surprisingly the same result. But amidst Raditz's fight, Kakarot flies upwards. He asks Beerus, can they fight him together? And not on this planet. They're kind of limited by fighting here because they don't want to blow it up on accident. Wait, can they survive in space? Interesting. He didn't realize Saiyans were capable of that. Well, not any normal Saiyans, and they clearly aren't normal Saiyans. They actually prefer fighting out there anyways. It gives them way more room to maneuver, and less things to get in their way. The three fly out into space. And before following them, Whis then turns to the other humans. Are they looking to contend against Lord Beerus as well? Nervously, they all back off, not wanting to fight him at all. But Ten steps up and asks, what is Beerus here for? He's looking for his next rival, the Super Saiyan God. As the 2v1 happens in space, Beerus still has no effort at all fighting them. He tells them, for mortals, they are decently strong. Definitely not on his level though. But he sees, they have potential to be way stronger, if this Super Saiyan God even does exist. He wonders if it's a person or a form. And after seeing these two transform, and apparently the fact that these aren't their only forms, he begins to think it might be the latter. Super Saiyan God is a form, possibly something that they can get. And that's it. That's what they could wish for. Wait, wish? What do they mean by that? Well, they were seeking out the Dragon Balls, and they wanted to wish for something to help defeat Turles, but they didn't know what to wish for. At the same time, they didn't want to just have power granted to them either. They were probably going to wish for like immortality or something. But this actually makes it way more fun. If they could find the Dragon Balls and wish for a way to actually learn how to get Super Saiyan God, not necessarily have it handed to them, just a way for them to get it. They want to get the knowledge and obtain it for themselves. But there's no Dragon Balls here on Earth. Well, Whis says that there are a few other sets of Dragon Balls. There's Namek, Planet Cereal, and of course the Super Dragon Balls. But the latter seems like a little bit too much for what they're asking for. And Kakarot perks up. Yeah, Cereal. They actually wanted to go back there. They've seen the power that those Dragon Balls can grant. They just don't know how to find the planet. Otherwise they would have flown there themselves.
Right.
And Whis says that's not a problem, especially because Beerus likes this idea. Well, if it's gonna get him the Super Saiyan God, then so be it. He'll take them wherever they need. Quickly they fly back down to Earth, telling the humans they're gonna leave very quick. They'll be back soon. Ten tells them to be careful. They don't know what they're dealing with. And Kakarot says he's not concerned. Beerus doesn't seem that awful. He's terrifying, but it seems like they're on his good side for now. And who knows, maybe they'll come back with even more power than before. Well, Ten hopes they're right. They've actually had a pretty good time training with the Saiyans here, growing stronger from it too. And Ten did consider asking Kami to make a new set of Dragon Balls, just to ask for the Super Saiyan God to appease Beerus. But this is a better way. This is the least risky option for Earth, letting Kakarot and Raditz go find the Dragon Balls on their own, somewhere out in space. And that'll be a true test of how much they've changed, what they decide to wish for out there. They can prevent a wish down here, but not out in space, at Planet Cereal. Kakarot and Raditz fly back up into space to meet Whis and Beerus again. Chaozu asks, is he really sure about this? Well, Ten says there's not really anything else they could do. And Krillin's fairly optimistic. Those two don't seem too terrible. Yamcha agrees, and Ten says he's actually pretty surprised. After that time they spent with them, it's kinda weird. Kakarot definitely isn't the same person as before, but not in a bad way. It seems like he's actually better. He was so misguided back then, and he definitely is still misguided now. And it's not just from what he saw on Earth, it's from what he heard from Kakarot and Raditz too. The stories they mentioned. They were both out on a conquest before, and now they're mainly just seeking power. And Ten smiles. If they were on that conquest, well, they'd pretty much all be dead by now. Earth would be under their rule and there's nothing they could do about it. The others are terrified at how casually he says this. But Ten says it's the truth. Kakarot definitely has changed. Beerus and Whis take the two Saiyans to Planet Cereal, and it doesn't really take too long. They arrive on the planet, and just as they do, Granola jumps out, ready to attack the two new people there. He can't sense their energy, but he saw that giant pillar of light from far away when they landed. And he looks at them, but he sees nowhere to hit them, no vital points. He thinks these are invaders, and he's ready to put down his life to fight against them. More people seeking out the Dragon Balls. But then Kakarot and Raditz step out. He drops his guard, standing there nervously, and the second Kakarot sees Granola with his guard up, he flips out, telling Granola to stop. Don't try and attack. He doesn't want to piss off Beerus or Whis. And Granola's surprised. Obviously he doesn't know Kakarot or Raditz too well, but last time he saw them, they weren't nearly this freaked out, especially when facing Lord Slug. And especially once he hears Beerus' title, God of Destruction, he realized this is something he shouldn't mess with.
Yeah, you shouldn't mess with that
tells
one.
Granola, they're just here for the Dragon Balls, and he doesn't know what to think of this. But Beerus explains himself. He's looking for a rival, a Super Saiyan God of sorts, and those Dragon Balls are the key to helping him find that. Granola doesn't even know what to say. He's terrified, but Raditz reassures him. They're not here for anything malicious. They just want to get some knowledge from the dragon, and leave immediately after. And obviously, Granola doesn't even know if they're telling the truth. He barely knows the two of them. But at the same time,
no choice right
it's not
now.
like he can really do anything.
Yeah.
And if he does decide to attack them right now and lash out against them, well, he's dead either way. He saw a brief glimpse of their power when they landed here, and that's just the two Saiyans, not Beerus or Whis. The fact that he's still alive is proof enough. Reluctantly, he agrees, leading them to Monaido. And Monaido says he doesn't really like this idea, but they might have no choice. And before they make the wish, Monaido does warn them. Whatever they wish for may have consequences. Taranbo's a very powerful dragon, but if the wish is too powerful, he could take something away from them. A bargain of sorts. Weird. They wonder what Lord Slug gave up. Not that it matters though, he's dead anyways. But they'll keep this in mind. The dragon is summoned, and Taranbo is immediately terrified when he sees Beerus. Beerus says not to worry, just grant the stupid wish. Kakarot asks, how can they obtain the Super Saiyan God form? And since Beerus is here, Taranbo's a little lenient, and gives them a few options. For one, he could grant them the form. Of course, he might have to compress their lifespan for it. He also says they can perform a ritual for the Super Saiyan God, explaining that they'll need 4 more Saiyans to do so, and they're gonna have to be righteous Saiyans too. Not only do they not have enough Saiyans, but they definitely don't have any righteous ones. But there is a third option. They could obtain it on their own, by getting access to God Ki somehow, and training to harness that.
Okay.
But how are they supposed to get Godly Ki? Taranbo says it'll take a lot of time. But there is something he can do, infuse them with Godly Ki. But there is a condition though. He'll need someone to grant it to them. This way it'll give them a jump start. And even though they would rather train for it on their own, they don't know if that'll even work. And Beerus wants to see this form now, so he tells them to go with this wish. And even though that first wish is enticing to Beerus, he can't go with that. What if their lives are compressed too much, and the Super Saiyan God dies shortly after being born? He tells Taranbo he'll grant a small amount of his Godly Ki, and if the dragon can infuse that Ki within them, then so be it. In his hands, he creates a small orb of energy, but the energy contained in this orb is massive. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of Beerus' power, but it's still a significant amount, and it's pure Godly Ki. Taranbo nervously accepts this, and he confirms the wish with the two Saiyans. Kakarot and Raditz agree. But before the wish is made, Granola interrupts. He sees an opportunity here. He apologizes to Beerus, but he asks. He wants to be granted Godly Ki too. Monaido's surprised by this. Why? What does he need that for? Does he still want that stupid revenge that he's after?
Held back.
I mean, Frieza and Cooler are dead anyways. But Granola says it's not that. He needs to be able to protect this planet. After seeing how powerful these two have gotten, and that last encounter with Lord Slug, Granola thinks he might not be able to protect this planet if it comes to it. And besides, he knows there's others out there. He sensed Turles and Broly. He knows there's still people out there trying to dominate the universe. He needs to protect against them somehow. And Beerus is curious. Is he even strong to begin with? And Kakarot and Raditz actually vouch for him surprisingly. A while back, they fought together. They saw Granola's power. He's strong. It could potentially grow even stronger. Raditz remembers too. The Cerealians have some pretty unique abilities. Hearing about the time the Saiyans invaded this planet, but only having vague knowledge of it, Granola says this is true. And this actually makes Beerus pretty curious. Well, normally he wouldn't be this gracious, but they are intruding on his planet after all. And really, he should destroy Granola right now for even stepping up to them. But the potential of another strong rival, Beerus isn't really going to turn that down, especially if Kakarot and Raditz are vouching.
Okay, Beerus.
These mortals are saying that other mortal is strong by
Granola?
mortal standards. Well, sure, why not go for it? Consider this compensation for using Taranbo as well. The wish is granted, with the power being split amongst the three. God Ki is infused into Kakarot, Raditz, and Granola. And at first, the three don't really feel much of a change, but they try tapping into that Godly Ki. There's an immense reserve of power in there. Their base alone is incredibly powerful compared to where it was before. And that was just a small amount of Beerus' Ki, divided amongst the three of them. And Monito's amazed too. He can't even sense the power, but still. He's just glad that Granola wasn't wishing for that just so he can get revenge on somebody. But Granola assures Monito, it's fine. Well, now that they have this Godly Ki, they need to train for the Super Saiyan God. They know it exists at least. It's a form they need to work towards, so Beerus says they're going to come to his planet. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to whip them into shape, because they decided to take this route too. He's already a bit annoyed that they didn't just ask for the form as is, but he knew it wasn't necessarily an ideal wish. And while he's at it, he turns to Granola too. He's not too sure how strong a Cerulean can grow. Whis says they have some pretty strong potential. They were formidable opponents for Saiyans a long time ago too, and look how strong these Saiyans have grown. Although Whis doesn't really have a clue because Granola's really the only Cerulean left. And beyond that, he's the strongest to ever have existed. So it will be kind of a gamble. Beerus says since he did want to intrude on the wish, he's going to have to come to their planet too. At first he's shocked to hear this, but he obliges. This will actually be good for him. What's the point of getting this Ki if he can't learn
Granola out there.
He needs to grow as a Cerulean
Granola with God Ki is
especially
probably
seeing
pretty
all these
fire.
threats out there. If Turles ever were to come to his planet, and Kakarot and Raditz weren't around to help him, he's going to need a way to defend against it himself. He says goodbye to Monito, as he heads off with the two other Saiyans. Kakarot and Raditz are pretty surprised that it turned out this way too. This is great, it's another training partner for them. And yeah, Granola wasn't near their level of power before, but he was still pretty strong for a random mortal that they found out in space. They even laugh at this. Look at them, they're already calling other people mortals. They just were mortals a few minutes ago. And now everyone has a new task, learning to control Godly Ki. Granola's not too sure where it'll take him, but Beerus jokes around. Maybe there's a Super Cerulean God too. And he nervously laughs, but then he's terrified because he realizes Beerus probably thinks he has transformations beyond his current state right now. He doesn't know if they even exist, and he has no clue how to tell Beerus about this. Oh crap, what did he get himself into? Months pass as they start training on this planet, and the entire time, Beerus wonders, what about those other Saiyans out there? These two, they seem pretty adamant for Beerus to not seek out those other two Saiyans. And he asks Whis, can he look into them a bit? And Whis says he could definitely do so. It seems they didn't want Beerus to seek him out because they had some sort of grudge between them. Maybe Kakarot and Raditz didn't want the other Saiyans to get the Super Saiyan God power. They wanted it for themselves. And Beerus says that kinda does make sense. But after hearing about how strong those other two are, well, they're around the level of Kakarot and Raditz. Apparently that one Saiyan, Broly, doesn't really know how to control his power, with Whis showing Beerus the fight against Majin Buu. But Beerus is curious, seeing Turles fight against Buu. He seems quite strong. He has that same form that Raditz has and can actually control it better. But at the same time he sees, Turles is too much of a loose cannon. And Whis is surprised that Beerus says this. Beerus is kind of a loose cannon too. Beerus tells him to shut up. He's saying that because he's not sure of what Turles would even do with that power. Not that he's scared of it. Turles will still be far below him, even if he became a Super Saiyan God.
Right.
But long term, he plans for these two Saiyans to become his rivals, and not just that, potentially becoming the next God of destruction. And who knows, if Turles were a God of destruction, he'd take his job way too seriously possible, destroying everything just for the fun of it. Whis butts in again. Doesn't Beerus do the same as well? Beerus tells him to shut up again. He's just cranky from waking up from his nap. And even if he does destroy things at random at some points, it's not anything in comparison to what he thinks Turles would do with that power.
Yeah.
The whole universe
Turles
would
do
be
some
gone.
crazy shit.
Universe 7 wouldn't exist anymore. Hell, he might even find a way to drain the power from the universe itself. Seeing as he's first started with planets and is now up to stars. But either way, it's not too important to think on. For now, he has his two rivals and that's all he needs. Especially because after these few months, they've all made progress, growing significantly stronger. But one day, there's a breakthrough. Kakarot and Raditz look at Beerus. They've done it. They've obtained the form Super Saiyan God. And Beerus can't believe he's here. Well, what are they waiting for? Show him already. He's waited so long for this. He was already pissed off that he couldn't find it immediately, but now, they have no reason to hold it from him any longer. And the two stand alongside each other. They're surrounded by a fiery aura, and Granola watches on amazed. Their vital points, they're completely gone. Their ki has changed significantly, even compared to that godly ki they just had beforehand. And it's not an explosive transformation like they have with their other forms. They're simply coated by the aura, and calmly, the aura dissipates, with the two Saiyans standing there, now with red hair, looking slimmer and younger, with a divine ki surrounding them. And Beerus says, this is definitely it. This is the power of a Super Saiyan God. The two stand there, immediately ready to test it out, and Beerus is elated. Finally, his wait is over. But unfortunately, you guys are going to have to wait a little bit longer because this is where we'll leave off for now. What do you think of evil? Beerus looks...
Alright, What If Goku Was Evil Part 14, the Big Getty Solar System. Okay. Alright.
on in awe, amazed at the sight of a Super Saiyan God. Two of them, in fact. Deep down, he knows that they still won't be enough to challenge him. So, instead, why not another 2v1? He invites them both to fight him, both at once. He wants to see the true power of the Super Saiyan God duo. And a battle between them ensues. Everyone's moving so quickly. Whis watches on impressed at his two students, with Granola watching on amazed. Thankfully, he's a god-level fighter and can keep track of this, especially with the fact that he has great eyesight. But he can't imagine anyone else trying to watch this fight. It's happening so quickly. Their sheer speed, power, everything. He could sense it. It makes him really wonder if he has a god form too that he can access. These Saiyans have a ton of transformations, but for him, he hasn't achieved much. There is one power-up he's gained though. He's awoken his second eye, having 2 red eyes now. He's empowered by that and his godly ki, but he wonders if he can get a true godly form like those two. Beerus, Raditz, and Kakarot dash around the planet, high above the surface, with Beerus enjoying every second of it. This power is greater than he expected. He sees that they're not on his level, not just yet, but they have the potential to get there. And they're amazed by the power too, but at the same time, underwhelmed. They felt like they could be on Beerus' level once they attain this form, but it seems not.
Hell no.
Beerus tells them, don't get so down on themselves. This is just the first step. Just look at what these Saiyans have achieved before. He's seen their other forms. Those previous forms, like Super Saiyan or Kakarot's Evil Saiyan form, those acted like stepping stones of sorts. The first part of their journey into other forms. And if they were able to improve those forms, building upon them, maybe they could do the same with Super Saiyan God. The 3 of them land, with Beerus impressed. He tells them their next step is to improve Super Saiyan God, in any way possible. They're on the right path, but still, their power needs to be a little bit higher to contend with him. Well, a lot higher. And also he tells them, it needs to be a lot higher if they want to contend with Turles. They have no clue about how strong he is right now. But Beerus says Whis has been keeping tabs on him. Turles isn't just sitting around twiddling his thumbs. He may be unlocking his own new powers soon. Kakarot and Raditz are amazed to hear this. So is Granola. He started to hear a bit more about Turles from the 2 other Saiyans. And naturally, Granola's going to be against him. Turles is an evil Saiyan. A true evil Saiyan, unlike
Very
these 2,
evil.
who are not nearly as bad as him anymore. But it's not just
I like
that.
Granola's
His role right now
in the
is
story,
on a
in
conquest
this
for
chapter.
power. He's directly absorbing the energy from planets. And stars too, taking it all for himself. But more importantly, he has direct control over Frieza's army. It's under a different name, but it still is the Frieza Force. Granola's definitely glad that Frieza and Cooler are dead. But what's the point if somebody's going to take his place? In Granola's eyes, Turles is just a new Frieza. More of a reason to have a grudge against Turles as well. Back at the Neo Crusher Core, Turles is preparing something immense. From that piece of Boo that he had, they're trying to make a new Boo, one that only answers to Turles. He wants to use Boo as a weapon. But at the same time, he's not really involved with that project. He's still going around, planting more trees of mites. Mostly, he's eating fruits from planets. He still has to pace himself with stars after all. But now his body is fully adapted. He has no need to pace himself with fruits from planets. He's growing immensely stronger by the day, but he is seeing diminishing gains from the fruits. But one day, an idea comes to him. An idea regarding Boo. Instead of using him as a soldier, there may be a better way to utilize Boo's power. He hatches a perfect idea, immediately going over to his army. We enter a brief time skip. Kakarot, Raditz, and Granola continue training on Beerus' planet.
What's his idea?
They've grown significantly, but at a certain point, they feel like they've gained more than enough power. This should be enough to defeat Turles, no matter how strong he's grown by now. And Beerus questions if they're truly ready for it. Well, if they want to go, they can. He'll let them leave for now. But he does warn them, if they don't come back alive, he'll just take Turles as his next Super Saiyan God rival. So, the pressure's on. Whis offers to take them, but they decline. They're going to travel the old-fashioned way, using a spaceship so they can spend the time traveling to plan. Also, they don't want Beerus or Whis to meet Turles, too. They still have no clue about how those two will react and if they'll take a liking to Turles or not. So, that's partially the reason. They take Granola's spaceship, and the 3 can clearly sense its energy. It's so powerful, even when he's not at his full strength. They can sense it all the way across the universe, and they basically just use that to guide them. They spend the time on the ship resting, getting ready for a massive battle. But on their way over to Turles, they pass by a very strange solar system. Kakarot looks out into space, and tells Raditz to come look too. There's a couple of planets, and Raditz says he sees nothing abnormal about them, but Kakarot says to look closer. All of them have some sort of giant mountain on it. And not just a mountain, no, it's like sticking out into space. It's almost as if another planet is attached to them. The strangest part is it definitely does not look natural. And the fact that it's multiple
It
planets
like a
around
cancer
it.
on the planet.
But the weirdest part of all is the star nearby. There seems to be some sort of massive
That big
structure around
Yeti.
it, or at least
Cool
one in
it
the
back.
process of being built. Maybe this has something to do with Turles, a new plan of his or something, some new technology that he has. Alarms start going off in the ship, and Granola tries to pilot it away. They ask him what's going on, and he says they're under attack. Something's latched onto the ship, and they're being pulled into a nearby planet. What the hell's happening here? The ship starts spinning out of control, and then crashes. The 3 are relatively uninjured, and they jump out of the remains of the ship. They have no clue about what happened, but it was clearly deliberate. They're on one of those nearby planets, one that had that giant mass on it. Something then reaches out of the ground, trying to grab onto their legs. They jump up, floating high above, wondering what the hell's going on. But then they see something sticking out of the ground nearby, and it starts building itself up into something else. A mass of wires appears, forming together with a bunch of metal,
shit.
and they see a humanoid standing there. The man rises up, floating in front of them as well. Kakarot and Raditz' jaws drop, and Granola doesn't know who he's looking at, but he has somewhat of an idea. The two brothers can't believe it. Is that Cooler? And Granola turns to them. Wait, if that's Cooler, then what the hell happened? He thought they killed Cooler. And they say they weren't lying. They did kill Cooler. This looks like him, but looks like he's made out of metal or something. This Cooler lookalike smiles. He introduces himself. This is a new incarnation of Cooler, Metal Cooler. Kakarot almost fully destroyed Cooler, although there were some bits and pieces left. Thankfully, he was found by the Big Getty Star, with the two merging, and ever since then, he's been amassing even more power. First taking over moons, then planets, and now an entire solar system. Creating a Dyson sphere around the star to use it as power, and using the materials from all the nearby planets to grow even further. And he's glad he found them, telling them he was in the process of seeking Turles out too. He tried looking for these Saiyans, but the only power he could detect was Turles', which explains why they're on the same course. This is one of the systems he's infected so far. Everybody lands on the surface, and Kakarot proudly proclaims he might be stronger, maybe a lot stronger, but they tell Cooler he could definitely not contend with what they are now. Kakarot transforms, going into Supreme Saiyan, and he smiles. It's gonna be kinda funny. This will be the second time he'll use this form to kill Cooler, and Raditz proudly proclaims, no matter how strong he is now, there's no way he can contend with gods. And Cooler's surprised to hear this, but smiles. Maybe they're a little too confident in their own strength. He disappears from sight, fighting Kakarot, and Kakarot's actually impressed. His power is keeping up with Supreme Saiyan, but it's fine. He has stronger forms, and Raditz and Granola are there too. But Kakarot looks down at the surface. A few more Coolers pop up, with them starting to fight Raditz and Granola.
Yeah.
Wait, there's more than one? The Cooler fighting Kakarot laughs. He can make as many as he needs. He tells them they'll also make perfect batteries for what he has in mind. He had the Big Getty Star before, but now he's looking for bigger things. Now, he's aiming to make a Big Getty galaxy of sorts, taking over multiple solar systems for himself, using it to amass immense amounts of strength. And not only will they be perfect batteries for him, but at the same time, he can enact his revenge, finally getting rid of the two of them. If he can make infinite copies of himself, they're going to need to reserve their power. So, Kakarot transforms, but doesn't use his full power, going into Super Saiyan God, and Raditz uses this cue to do the same, with Granola fully powering up as well. He tries to focus. These are machines, so finding vital points may be different from when he finds them in actual living people.
Right.
But he still probably can. There has to be some sort of weak point somewhere. And he looks around. The metal coolers do have weak points, but every time one of them is destroyed, it just regenerates, learning from that. But Granola realizes he's looking in the wrong place. Oatmeal tells him, these are just copies. They need to look for the source of the copies. And Granola starts darting his eyes around. And up in space, he sees something faintly, very far away. That might be the source of it. A satellite flying around the solar system, one that seems to be the source of all these. He jumps up in the air, looking at the two brothers. He says they need to buy him some time. Kakarot and Raditz tell him they got it. But wait, he's gonna go up out in space alone? And Granola says he'll be fine. Technically, he hasn't really been confirmed to be able to breathe in space or not, but he did have that one fight on that asteroid before, so I'm gonna go with that and say he can.
Hey, I mean,
he flies
yeah,
out into space.
that makes sense.
And one of the metal Coolers tries to stop him.
I ain't gonna argue with
Kakarot
you,
and Raditz
Charlotte.
protect it. They tell Cooler his fight is with them, and he laughs. Their friend is smart for escaping. They're not gonna be so lucky. He'll let that Cerulean go, and he could probably find him later too. And Kakarot and Raditz go with this idea. Yeah, he's just retreating. But they're not. They're gonna stay here to fight. And Cooler's fine with this. He wants to kill them anyways. That's what's important right now. More clones of Metal Cooler pop up. Individually, they can't really contend against these Super Saiyan gods, but collectively, they're starting to push the two of them back. The brothers are still holding back some of their power, but they realize they're gonna have to possibly use a little bit more. Thankfully though, they have just the thing for this. Wires shoot up from the planet below, trying to drag the two brothers down and use them as batteries. A swarm of metal coolers flies toward them as well. Kakarot looks over at his brother. It's now or never, and Raditz agrees. They'll use their full power. The aura of a Super Saiyan god encapsulates them, but the aura starts morphing, becoming a bluish-greenish color. Kakarot's hair grows out, with his eyes slightly morphing too, and as for Raditz, his hair becomes less like hair and more like fire. A bluish-green flame. They fully power up, and just from their auras alone, all the metal coolers around them right now are destroyed, and they fully unleash their strength. The entire planet collapses from this alone, and the two are left out in space. Two beacons of light that Granola can see from far away. This is the power of a Super Saiyan god, combined with their ultimate forms. Supreme God Kakarot and Infernal God Raditz. But the fight's not over yet. An army of coolers comes from other planets too, and they're more than ready. They barrel through the entire army of them, jumping around from planet to planet, fighting the waves of them as they come along. This is amazing. They're having a ton of fun doing this too. It's a great test for their power, and such a thrilling battle too. They never thought they'd be able to fight this many people at once. It's awesome. They go to one of the nearby planets, the largest one in the system. trying to coax all the metal coolers to get as far away from Granola as possible. Granola flies out into space, getting closer and closer to that satellite. But as he gets closer, he sees it's not what he thought he was. He assumed it was a moon, being taken over by the big Getty star, kind of like those planets. But no, this is a purely artificial mass. It's just a giant body of metal. And as he gets closer, he sees something illuminating from the other side. It's where the weak point is. He could feel it. Wires start shooting out of the body of metal, and he's barely able to dodge it. But then he sees the other side of it, and he has no clue of what he's looking at. It's a face. He sees two eyes on this massive moon, and it turns towards the planet where Kakarot and Raditz are. They see an ominous red glow in the sky, and then they hear someone talking with them telepathically. It's Granola. He tells them to jump off the planet, now. As they look closer at the glow, they can kind of make out what looks like Cooler's face. A massive laser is launched down to the planet, with the two brothers barely being able to dodge. They jump out of either side of the laser, trying to fly around it, converging at that moon where they find Granola. So this is the source of all that. But they realize too, if they're going to defeat Cooler, they're going to need to get rid of his materials too. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like any of these planets are inhabited. Their best idea is to just destroy all those planets nearby. The two start launching blasts, powerful ones that have no key control behind them, just to destroy the planets. And that giant moon starts to morph, turning into a giant metal cooler. The scale of it is insane. But Granola can clearly see where the weak point is. He can find the chip, the AI that's directing it all.
Okay.
It's within the head, the same spot where they see an actual piece of cooler, one of his eyes, part of his face. If they could aim for that and destroy it, maybe they can get rid of this menace. That's where the core is. The brothers try and use their power once more, glowing brilliantly out in space. More metal coolers are spawned from the giant one, and they look at Granola. He tells them not to worry about him. He'll be able to keep up. He's coated by a fiery aura too, tapping into all his godly power. He's still aiming for a form of his own, but for now, he can at least utilize the godly power with his double red-eyed form. The three all launch up, avoiding the waves of metal coolers on the way. Tearing through them, the massive eyes launch more lasers down at them, with the trio being barely able to dodge it. Granola goes in front of them, directing them towards where the weak point is. He tells them they probably only have one shot at this, summon all their power, coalesce it into one point. The three of them all start charging ki in their fist. This is their only chance.
It ain't gonna work, big dog.
Granola looks back at them, seeing if they're ready, and they nod. He charges up and then flies right upwards, sticking a fist out coated in ki. The two brothers follow behind in the line, with the two then appearing on each side of Granola. They rapidly rush towards the head, with their three fists right next to each other.
Shit fire.
More coolers start to try and swarm them, but before they can get close, they get disintegrated, and they make their way up to the top. Their fists connect all at once, penetrating right through the head. Granola guides them too, as they head right into the core. They find themselves in a massive open area, only illuminated by their ki. It's inside the head, but they see right in the middle, the core. With one last charge, they burst right through it, coming out of the other side of the head too. And quickly, they turn around, trying to all launch a massive blast at once. The giant cooler lets out a metallic shriek, deafened by the vacuum of space. It starts collapsing, and the three of them use all their energy for that attack, but they're going to need a little bit more energy just to escape. Raditz tells them fly, now. He launches off in the opposite direction, with the other two following him, and the giant mass starts collapsing. Massive rays of energy are shot out from it, as the core explodes. Thankfully, they're able to safely escape and defeat Metal Cooler, but now they're a bit annoyed. They were so close to Turles, and they used all their energy to fight Cooler. Well, at least there's a good way to test out their power.
Test your power
But it
out.
seems they're going to need to heal up once more. Damn it, that would have been perfect. Whis then appears nearby. He was watching the entire time and realized that they're going to need a ride back. Maybe this time they won't turn down his transportation. Yeah, they should have just listened to him. Whis grabs them, taking them back to Beerus' planet where they could be restored. And thankfully, this bought Turles just enough time. His army begins finishing the project. After all this time, it's finally complete. Turles didn't even know what exactly just happened now, but he sensed the battle out in space, and he definitely felt Raditz and Kakarot's energy too. They might be making their move soon, and this is perfect timing. He now has a new power of his own, a way that he's going to be able to defeat them. One of the scientists from his army hands him a fruit. It looks strange, different from the other ones. It's pinkish in color.
Think about the
It was grown from
Majin?
a seed taken from a nearby star, and it was planted within that piece of Majin Buu, absorbing all the power from that. They're able to genetically engineer this, a fruit not only with the power from a star, but from Majin Buu. It kind of looks disgusting, but Turles doesn't care. He takes a bite out of it, and he feels a sensation he's never felt before. This is unlike anything he's had. His eyes widen. The power of Majin Buu consumes him. He feels magic coursing through him, a new type of energy. Instead of using Majin Buu's power as a weapon, he decided, why not use Majin Buu's power for himself? Infuse it within him, and this was his master plan.
Hell no.
Now
What
begins
the
the birth
fuck?
of Majin Turles, and this is where we'll leave off for now.
Majin Turtle. Alright, Shalashan. What you pulling out your ass? What you smoking? Nah, just play. I fuck with it. I fucks with that. I ain't gonna lie. But make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, bro. Y'all. Next video will be the last 2 parts, and I can't wait to see it, man. And I'll catch y'all next time, man. Peace.